Thank you for tuning in to Roll Call. The movie you selected is Parker.
Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years throughout their blockbuster hits.
Because let's face it, we miss Blockbuster.
Yes, and I don't know, I've considered robbing, committing a few crimes and doing some heists if that means it could keep our local Blockbuster in business.
That's very out of sight of you.
It is very out of sight of me. Oh, was that my line for Blockbuster? I thought out of sight was more about wearing a yellow jumpsuit.
I'm not sure, but...
Well, listen, I know we're going to be referring back a lot to Out of Sight with this episode.
Yes. What's up, people? Hi, I'm Bria. And I'm trying to confuse Simone here because I'm pretty sure she knows what I wanted to say. And I'm pretty sure if you've listened to a few of these episodes, you might know what I want to say.
Yes.
So I'm going to say two things. I would love to receive the bills that she receives at the end. If you know, you know. If you can guess, yes, I am once again, disappointed. But I feel like if I ever meet Jennifer Lopez, this might be my question. It's just like, you've done all these movies where, or at least a good amount of movies where you've been a part of a heist of some sort or have gotten a large sum of money, have been stealing, thieving to live your best life. And yet there's not a scene of you living your best life and in a bikini on a beach. We've seen these movies and there's so much opportunity for that to happen, right? And I just feel like at this point in this journey that I've been there has to be a reason why it's not happening.
All this time you were pretending so much for my happy ending.
Yes, cut all the other bullshit I said. That is perfect. So why?
Why?
Tell me why.
Tell me why that we keep on getting robbed of these moments. And hey everyone, I'm Simone, and like Leslie Rodgers, I too am thirsty for a nice Chablis, and I appreciate the wine aficionado of Jennifer Lopez's character in this movie. Which, Bria, hit us. What movie are we talking about today?
If you don't know, well, now you're about to know. We're talking about Jennifer Lopez in 2013's crime thriller Parker, co-starring Jason Statham. And I hope I said his last name right.
You sure did.
Jason Statham. Does that sound right?
You sure did.
So, let's take the trip back to January 2013. And boy, personally, I really would like to go back to this point in my life because I did a major thing and my life of movies changed drastically. I went to Sundance in January of 2013.
Oh yeah, that was your Jan term class.
Yes. So at our alma mater, St. Mary's College of California.
Hashtag go Gales.
Hashtag La Marinda. So at our school in January, instead of having a long winter break, we have this opportunity to take a fun class for January. It's your only class for that term. You can maybe take two, like one full class and then one little baby class. And so that year, a lot of people take this opportunity if maybe they can't do a study abroad. There's classes that go to different countries and travel and stuff. So the lowest tier traveling course I could muscle in my parents into letting me do was for Sundance. So I was able to do that. I loved that class. I saw the most movies in my class as my trophy, toot 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 my own horn. But yeah, and I would really love to go back. That is on my post-pandemic list of like shit I gotta, like you've been saying, like, bitch, now it's time to do. But like I saw so many movies there, so I'll talk about those movies when we get to like what came out in 2013. But besides my personal life, 2013, man, I mean, what a time. What a time to be alive. I was playing music before we started, and started from the bottom, was playing, and Suit and Tie by Justin Timberlake. That came out in January, because I remember being in Utah and like listening to that and be like, this is interesting, and then like being in love with it by the end of that. The Lumineers is another song I remember listening to a lot.
Hey Ho?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Ho.
Bam, da digga down, but da hey.
So, yeah, let's get into some stuff that happened in 2013. Obviously, I feel like since we've left like our childhood like salivation periods of the 90s and 2000s, we're a little less enthused, so this might not be that long unless I just keep talking. So anyways, what does the fox say, Simone?
That is one stupid, annoying song that I secretly really love. It's on the funeral playlist. Again, if you know, you know. But it's just one of those, like, so obscene that to me, I thought it was hilarious.
I had no clue really what that song was. I probably wasn't really paying attention, but I do remember like people talking about it. It was like the Gangnam Style of that year, so it's like everywhere. I'm pretty sure also another thing that was still maybe everywhere was mustaches.
Like as a trend?
Yes, like very hipster mustache tattoos on your pointer finger.
For sure.
Yes.
There were so many people at Urban Outfitters, and then like that had the mustache tattoo and also had a mustache. But in those times, that's when I first heard of like actually styling your mustache. So the folks who grew out mustaches would have those like wax, and it would look like Captain Hook in the movie Hook.
Yeah.
With how it just was like perfectly.
I'm mesmerized. You can't see. We might have to post this. Simone is like streaking.
I'm doing the motions as if I had a mustache and like, crimping the edges to keep them all curly.
Oh
mustaches.
I mean, and beards
look like a 1920s soda pop jerk. I mean, you go for it, man.
But alongside mustaches, beards became like a huge thing. Like,
yeah.
And I was I have drawings probably still on my Instagram of like me drawing dudes with beards. And so I was very much like, ooh, I like this. Yes, men with beards. But yeah, so weird things that we were getting into in 2013. Other weird things. Viral challenges. I'm not sure which came first, but one thing I saw was the Harlem Shake, which I still don't really know what that is.
Yes.
But I know that it used to be a dance Black people used to do. So that got taken, and it was like, no, not that Harlem Shake, this Harlem Shake. But like, I was like, was this the first viral like video kind of challenge thing that we started doing?
Yeah, I remember Harlem Shake before planking, for sure.
Oh my god, planking! Dark recesses of my mind.
And then like, I don't know,
the ice bucket challenge.
Oh, the ice bucket challenge, hardcore parkour, just like the parkour challenges of jumping like you're Jason Statham.
Yes. My favorite, this is later, but my favorite still is the mannequin challenge. I'm so salty I didn't work somewhere where that would have been cool to do. So
that's just when you like would stand really still like a mannequin?
Yeah. And like someone would videotape, and like a whole room of people like are just like stuck. And so people got really creative and were doing like all kinds of different stuff during them, or different places and stuff. So I wish I still worked at Starbucks then. That would have been a fun one. But we're jumping ahead in time.
At least the ice bucket challenge had some kind of like charitable backing to it versus Harlem Shake was fun. Planking was just for fun. But I don't remember I mean, shit, we're in 2021 and some of these viral challenges, aka devious licks, I'm looking at you, middle schoolers and high schoolers. I'm really fucking sick of your shit right now. I like, take me back to those simpler times when people would just be planking or being a mannequin in public. I would much rather take that than have these little shits rip the soap dispenser off of our wall and spray it all over everywhere and then get their dick juice everywhere because no one can wash their hands anymore in middle school.
I mean, planking's kind of unsanitary in 2021 as well. But yes, it is a better option than stealing from school. How dare you?
Shame on you.
Yeah, parents, get your kids together. Besides that, I have some major music stuff.
Yes.
So, like I said, Justin Timberlake came out with Suit and Tie in January, which also meant he came out with an album. The 2020 Experience. I have that album on CD. Yes, 2021 JT, we're side-eyeing you still. But 2013 JT, I was like, he's back, baby.
He's back because this was his follow-up album to Future Sex Love Sounds, right?
Yes, which took years. Justin Timberlake is kind of like, for someone who doesn't, like, he only has 5 albums total.
I'll give you a confident yes on that one.
Justified, Future Sex Love Sounds, 2020 Experience, the 2020 Experience Part 2, and Man in the Woods. Yes. Okay. So he only has 5 albums, and that's not a lot for someone who's been in the music industry as long as he has. Like, granted, yes, he was in NSYNC, but like Beyonce has more albums than that, and they to me are like along the same lines of like career-wise. They're the same age, started around the same time, all that stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But yeah, so because of that, he also performed at the VMAs with NSYNC.
Oh, this was the reunion year.
Yes.
When NSYNC popped up. It was a surprise.
Yes. I think he won like maybe the Video Vanguard Award, and that's why.
Yeah. And Jimmy Fallon presented it because they're really good friends, I think.
Yeah, from
life.
SNL probably.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. He won some kind of special, like the Oscars equivalent of like the Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that in music. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, a very popular song, Daft Punk, Get Lucky. I mean, in other kind of Pharrell-related music controversy, Blurred Lines, Robin Thicke, I believe, came out this year. So, and I would like to cap off my music segment with the opus of self-titled Beyonce dropping at midnight in December of 2013. And I remember that next morning because at this time I was very much on Tumblr still. So I woke up with my laptop right beside me because that's how, when you're forever alone and in college, that's how your life is, okay? You're Netflixing to go to sleep and you wake up and that thing's right there. Like, are you still with us? So I woke up and I go on Tumblr and like people I follow or look at their Tumblrs are just like, oh my God. And they're just posting all this like stuff. And I'm like, what is this from? Where's all this? This is new Beyonce stuff. What? And I go on iTunes and oh my God, I screenshotted this. I have the screenshot somewhere. But iTunes is just all like Beyonce, and I'm just like, bye, absolutely, like no questions asked. And so I'm gonna bring this album up every fucking time we do something in 2013 because it is that special.
It is special. That was a great album. I mean, all of her albums are so good, but yeah, that was the surprise, because that's something that Beyonce is so great at, is being fiercely private, but also just kind of like dropping little subtle hints. But that was my first time of ever hearing of an artist just being like, boop, I'm gonna put that up there for the world to see, and being like, oh shit, like it took us all by a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, she changed the game, literally. Like, so many artists after that have done that or try to do that, and it doesn't necessarily work the same. No. But I love her motivation for doing that, because like music had become very, and I think in an interview that infamously gets, you know, retweeted, whatever, all around. She talks about that album and she's like, people don't listen to albums anymore. They listen to singles, and so you have a few hot singles and that's all. And it's like Beyonce very intentionally creates a full body of work. So this was her way of getting people to listen to that full body of work. This was also her deep diving into the pool of still creating music videos and creating music videos for every song on her album, which she kind of did with B-Day, but like this was like next level.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I wish more people would try to do that, but I mean, not everyone's Beyonce. See, I didn't even talk about that much 2013 stuff, but I talked for a really long time. Some other big moments are TV moments. So Game of Thrones, the Red Wedding episode.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Game of Thrones in general in 2013, but the Red Wedding episode, airs this year. I still have not watched Game of Thrones, so have no clue. I just know it's a big episode.
Yeah.
So, not that I don't want to watch Game of Thrones. I'm just like
everyone's watched it for us. It's one of those. It's one of those things where I feel like I know enough about the show just because of word of mouth and what everyone said. It's like I kind of already know like who dies and what the dealio is.
See, that's Simone is that person of like, okay, well, yeah, everyone's watching this. I don't need to watch it. Where I'm usually like, oh, that sounds really interesting, and I want to be in on, like, I'm very much a like FOMO watcher of things, but really tenured shows and like really serious good production shows, like I'm like, I gotta see how this ends. And Game of Thrones doesn't end as happily, like people aren't happy with the ending, so I didn't want to get tied up in that and then be let down, so I was like, I'll wait till it ends. So sometime now it's done, so sometime now I'll watch it eventually, but I just haven't had it's a winter show for me. I feel like I can't watch that during the summer. For me though, I did watch Breaking Bad, and I like watched it and then I stopped. And then I like binged so I could watch the finale live. So the finale I did watch live, and it is like one of the best TV finales I've seen. So that was the end of another era. But
that was 2013.
Yes, I'm surprised, but yes. All right. So that is it. Sorry it took so long.
Oh, don't apologize. I mean, even though it's out of our, what did you say, our like juicy memories of the 90s.
I forget what I said.
I forget what you said.
Block that out.
It made me laugh, whatever.
Salivating or something.
Yeah, salivating over the treasured memories of our youth. But I mean, we're out of the recession at this point. We're into our...
Are we? Because Occupy Wall Street, I think I talked about that.
Oh, yeah. So... That's true. Yeah. Okay. Well,
we're out of the recession, but then we're like, wait, we're fucked.
We're still fucked, but we're in the second term of Obama. We're in his like second year. Sorry, because I know we talked about that last episode, since that was the first election you voted for. And, things are like, I don't want to say innocent, but I mean... I just said this about like trends on social media. I'd much rather take a planking trend or a mannequin trend over what we have going on now.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe 10 years from now, it's going to be much worse. And we're like, wow, take me back to 2021.
That is a hell I do not wish upon us, especially given how hard these past 2 years have been. So
yes. If anything, I said to Kevin the other day, I was like, take me back to at least like the Tiger King part of quarantine, where like we were just kind of like, all right, well, we're at home and we'll watch this dumb show, I guess. But
I mean, even that's weird. Like, I am nostalgic for early quarantine too, but like early TikTok sounds, you're like, oh man, remember when like everything was like, oh no, like stuff like that, and you're like, ugh, like that year was shitty. Like, why am I nostalgic for? But I mean, it just keeps getting worse.
Just keeps getting worse. But you know what? Let's see if this movie is as worse as what we think 2021 is.
So some movies that came out when Parker came out, January 2013.
Yes, hit us with those.
So like I mentioned, I went to Sundance. When you look up January 2013 movies, lots of movies that premiered at Sundance are in that. And I was like, but so it's weird. So I will bring up like stuff that I saw that wound up coming out of theaters and being relatively kind of important. So like Fruitvale Station, I've talked about when I saw that, but like that movie, amazing. And I got Michael B. Jordan's autograph on my ticket, which I still have. So
nice.
And then Blackfish is a documentary about SeaWorld in general and their like culmination of how they catch orca whales and how they train them and how shady it all is, and a trainer named Dawn who wound up getting killed by the orca whale Tilikum. And whew, man, I didn't see that at Sundance. I remember a classmate watching it, but I remembered it, and so when it came out on Netflix, like I've watched that documentary probably over 10 times just because like I'm like, this is so good, like it's just so well done, like it's such a well storied documentary to me. Like I know your face is like, wow.
Well, I made the face because you're right. It's a great documentary. I don't know if I could watch it 10 times because it's also hella sad. Just like seeing a bummed out orca with a dorsal fin that's flopped over.
Yeah.
Is just so heartbreaking. Fuck you, SeaWorld. Fuck you.
I think it's like, it's how they set up like what eventually happens and like the history behind SeaWorld and places like that have whales and dolphins and sea creatures who are on display and like, you know, performing for people. And so like that part of it, and then like when the trainers talk about their training and really how they have no specialization, they just are kids who live in Florida, work in theme parks, and you know, get trained to do these tricks for people with big ass whales. Another one that didn't really take off after Sundance right away, but we have seen it come back and be repurposed into a television series is A Teacher. I saw that at Sundance, and it is now a series on Hulu, and it's about a teacher that has a romantic relationship with a student, but the movie versus the series is a little different. So stop talking about my Sundance experience. Movies that came out in theaters in January of 2013 include a James Franco film called Spring Breakers.
Oh, yes. That also has Selena Gomez and some of the other like little teen queens of the time.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but I do remember when pictures of him with like braids, like cornrows came out, and he had like a grill and he just looked like a hot Miami mess. But that came out. Very Good Girls came out. Allegedly Pit Stop came out, which I saw as well at Sundance, and it's about a gay love affair romance that happens at a truck pit stop, I think. If I remember correctly. I think I have a poster for that too. Anyways, Knights of Badassdom? Never heard of it, but it came out January 2013. Hansel and Gretel. Movie 43, which is like another
that movie was funny. It was just like a bunch of little sketch comedies kind of put together.
Yeah, it's a huge cast of a bunch of recognizable people. I've never seen it, but I'm like, hey, this looks interesting. Kind of similar how we've talked about other movies post what you're expecting when you're expecting that have these big big cast, big names, and like very sectioned stories, just like He's Not That Into You, Valentine's Day, blah blah blah. That movie came out, and on that note, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's get into what Little Raj thought. Oh, well, he's not with us anymore, but reviews and maybe what we think Little Raj would have gave Parker.
Definitely. So Parker is an action crime thriller movie. And you just kind of know going into it, any movie starring Jason Statham is going to have this like similar recipe to it, right? Where he's going to play either the villain, because he does play a villain pretty well, or some kind of an anti-hero story. And around this time, Jason Statham was cranking them out, one after another, and it was like all the same kind of movie. So kind of similar to some of the early critics that we've seen of Jennifer Lopez in terms of her and these same kind of romantic comedy movies or similar type roles that she was taking. The flack really actually is placed on Jason Statham in a lot of these reviews. So we are living in a post Lil Raj world, but he does have a legacy website where he has writers working, employed through the movie critique business who are writing this. And so the one that I'm going to read, the writer's called Peter Sobczynski. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but the last name is spelled Sobczynski. So it's Sobczynski or Sobczynski or something, but I'm trying really hard. Bria, any guesses on what the Little Raj legacy has to rate Parker?
Well, given what you provided as background, I'm guessing it's not that good. So I'm going to go 2 stars, maybe 1.5.
You got it. It's 1.5. Peter Sobczynski calls this uptight, definitely not out of sight.
Wow.
So going forward, keep in mind a lot of the reviews, because I did read some other ones, but I'm going to bring up 2 mainly. A lot of the other reviews for this movie pit this against Out of Sight because of its similar style and nature, this crime noir style film where Jennifer Lopez plays next to a criminal. A criminal. Yes, a criminal.
A very charming criminal.
A charming criminal. That's right. Now, the director of this movie, Taylor Hackford, he has a pretty good rap sheet when it comes to directing. He did An Officer and a Gentleman, and he also did the movie Ray.
Damn.
Yeah. And so a lot of people were surprised and kind of had higher expectations for this movie and were kind of surprised. Well, you know what? For his first kind of like big crime noir film, it was a bit of a swing and a miss.
Yeah, and action movies are a bit different than biographies.
Yes, absolutely. And this movie is quoted as, all of the ingredients are here for a sexy, dark-humored crime film along the lines of Steed and Soderbergh's great Out of Sight, but they never gel into anything coherent or satisfying. Outside of a few flashes of wit here and there, blessed reminders of Westlake's gift as a writer, because this movie is based off of a crime novel written by Donald Westlake, and this was based on the novel called Flashfire, which was the 19th in the Parker novel series. And we have blessed reminders of this author's gifts as a writer, who did die pretty shortly before this movie was released, that this film's screenplay fails to lift the crime drama cliches above the routine. The best thing about Parker are the 2 lead actors. Although working with material that is lackluster, even by his standards, Statham manages to demonstrate a commanding screen presence that cannot be dismissed. Opposite him, Lopez delivers one of her more convincing performances as a woman who knows that she still has it, but who is also painfully aware that those days are coming to a close, which I was kind of like, fuck, man.
Excuse you.
That is bold, Peter, because we know Lil Raj wouldn't have said that.
No.
Lil Raj likes J-Lo, so he would have been like, she did what she was supposed to do, like that she played her role as this not even necessarily damsel in distress, but as this like quirky co-star with Statham.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of take that line with a grain of salt.
Oh, I'm like Salt Bay salty, like saltier than the Baltic Sea. Like, yes. How dare you, sir?
Yeah.
Please remind me to like rip him a new one in a minute. Like,
you can rip, because those were the 2 biggest lines that I thought were the most standout-ish.
Okay. Well, first of all, Jennifer Lopez, how many years is it since 2013? Like 8 years?
Yes.
Still looks amazing.
Yes.
Okay. Epitome of like aging backwards.
Yes.
And even at that point, Also, all her fucking interviews, all anyone ever wants to talk about is the scene where she strips to her underwear and they're like, oh my God, you look amazing. How'd you prepare for that? Like, spare me, okay?
Of course.
Like, are you kidding me? And she's like 40 around this time? Like,
Yes. Yes. And her character is almost kind of, and we'll talk about this later, but her character is almost kind of reflecting to where she currently was age-wise and life-wise at that time, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm not quite sure if Peter was trying to say that that of saying like a woman who knows she still has it but painfully aware that those days are coming to a close. I don't know if they're trying to say that attraction wise or if it's just like it's coming to a close of her playing these like leading youngish like female co-star leads or what. But I mean, I hope that dude swallowed his fucking words when he saw Hustlers and all of the other movies that came out after this because Homegirl still got it and she can get it whenever she wants.
That's just Hollywood bullshit because like there's no reason to say that whatsoever. Like she looks amazing, which is usually the reason why they try to, say that women are past a certain point in Hollywood. Like their looks deteriorate. And that's so bullshit. Insulting. That is just sexism at its finest because you don't look at Jason Statham and be like, oh, he's a bit weathered. He's probably a bit past his prime. Let's usher in like Chris Pratt or, any of the fucking Chris's.
Because every other movie I've seen Jason Statham in after this is almost exactly like this. Like I've never not seen him play a role where he's a criminal or chasing a criminal or something where he's flinging himself out of a car or getting a knife stabbed through his hand, right?
But like he doesn't get shit because he's older, like, and he doesn't stop getting those roles because he's older. And they're like, can we really throw like a 50-ish Jason Statham? I don't think he's that old, but like, can we really throw him out of a car? Fucking Tom Cruise, he's still making Mission Impossibles. No one's like, do we really think a 50-something-year-old's gonna be falling out of helicopters still?
And Harrison Ford still wants to do his own stunts, and he's like oldest of them.
Clint Eastwood has a new movie. Like, he is in his 90s, right? Like, yeah. But women, oh no. And she is still hot. Like, there is so no, hot. Like, okay, yeah, there are some women who age, and that's fine. But they do age, and they might not look like they did when they were 20. But that doesn't immediately mean, like, okay, can't do it. Like,
yes.
Fuck you, man.
Fuck you. I agree. I mean, he had a lot of things just to say in general about the movie, how it just doesn't really work, and the only thing, and he does shit on Jason Statham. Over the last decade or so, Jason Statham has been making a bid to become the next big international action movie star and has demonstrated that he has most of what it takes to achieve this. He has charisma, a sly sense of humor, and is one of the few people working in the genre today who can convincingly pull off fight scenes. The only thing that has kept him from becoming a full-fledged superstar is that while he's appeared in some hits, such as Transporters and Expendables, and a few cult favorites, he has yet to find an iconic role that will put him over the top like Clint Eastwood and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, I mean, but again, it's not about his looks. It's about, he just hasn't found the right role yet. Yeah. But the biggest critique of Jennifer Lopez in this was that, like, she's getting kind of too old to play these kinds of roles, which is so insulting.
All right. Well,
but there are some other opinions out there besides Peter, if I may.
Yes.
This writer, A.O. Scott, from the New York Times, saw this movie at an earlier premiere that week in New York, obviously from writing this from the New York Times, but actually really likes Statham and Lopez, and says that they're kind of unlikely but an effective duo together, and that it's nice to see Lopez exercising her talent for this damsel in distress silliness, and that the both of them achieve kind of a screwball energy but with no real romantic chemistry. And we'll talk about this more once we get into the actual plot of this movie and how this role holds up to some of the other roles. But this writer kind of likes the fact that Statham and Lopez were not supposed to be driven together romantically, like how Clooney and Lopez clearly were in Out of Sight. But that they were kind of just played these like opposite co-starring duos where she just so happens to like fall under these circumstances but ends up working kind of well with Statham. Like, you don't need me, but I need you, but you do actually need me kind of thing.
How you feel about this movie then?
Okay, so I had to watch this movie 1.5 times because I fell asleep. And so I rewatched this morning upon recording. And I remember liking it a lot more yesterday. That's probably because I was a couple of strong mojitos deep. I give this movie a solid 2 pumps of butter. I think the action was enjoyable. And I enjoy seeing Jennifer in these types of roles of not necessarily a damsel in distress, but someone who is witty, smart, and clever, and funny, and sweet enough to kind of talk herself into these situations. And I think that she plays these kinds of roles really well. It's very different from a Karen Sisco role from Out of Sight, which again we'll get into in a little bit. But as an action movie, the plot was way too muddled. There were too many other side things going that I felt really kind of took away and distracted it. But this cast was really great, and I thought that the cast worked. It just was that kind of the one thing I do agree about Peter's Little Rod's legacy writer, his view on it was that there were all the like right ingredients that were there, but they just did not like gel or have time to really stew and get to know each other.
Yeah. I'm very close. I'm gonna give this 2.5 pumps of butter.
Okay.
I, like you, had partaked in some adult beverages when I watched this, so I was very much like enthralled, very much invested. Like I was like, ooh, ah, like very, very much into the storyline. So, I do think there are things that could be better, and I kind of wish they were better because I think in one of the interviews someone was like, this could be a series. Like there are a bunch of books and this could very well, like there could be a sequel and stuff like that. And so I feel like this, if done like John Wick or James Bond's the most infamous, but it's very much one of those movies that could easily have been like just like Fast and the Furious, just Parker 5, like
where Jason Statham's also in.
Yes.
But I think they didn't set it up to have it be a sequel. I mean, they probably easily could like pick up some spots, but I don't know if they had ever intended to do that.
Yeah, I don't know either, but like I just think it's like one of those action movies that is just enjoyable and that people would willingly be like, yeah, I'll see another version of that. It was good. It was fun. Nothing to write home about. So let's talk about the trailer.
Okay.
And then we'll do the summary. So
okay.
I really liked the trailer. At first I was like, oh fuck, they give it all away. But they interspliced a lot of action stuff with each other, so you can't really follow like what's going on and when. And so that saved it from being like, oh, okay, well now I know like the major heist of the movie, like I know what happens. But I really liked it. I thought that it made Jennifer's role seem bigger than what it was.
Yes.
And it kind of made it seem like there was a possible romantic connection with them more than is actually in the movie. But yeah, overall I thought it made the movie look really interesting and it didn't completely give away the plot.
Agreed. And that was my biggest issue with this trailer, was that it was misleading in terms of what Jennifer Lopez's role. I mean, she's second billed, rightly so, but we don't meet Leslie Rodgers until 25 minutes into the movie. So that's 25 minutes of exposition of Jason Statham and his like criminals and Nick Nolte. Talk about 6 Degrees of, which we will, because we have some co-stars that Jennifer has played with before. But 25 minutes to set up what the second half of the movie and the rest of the movie is going to be. So I don't know, for me, 25 minutes to get like your second co-star in seemed like a really long time. I kept on waiting for her to come up a lot sooner. And I mean, I guess maybe that's been done before. Maybe I'm thinking about Titanic.
What about Titanic?
Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't come in at least until 25-30 minutes into the movie.
I was just thinking about Out of Sight, and I was like, did she come in right away? And she doesn't, but you see like they're intertwined, like we switch back and forth.
That's true. It is spliced a lot different. Like they kind of like start from the middle or the end, and then they like meet up at some point.
Well, like scenes where she's getting like her dinner with her dad and he's giving her the gun. Like that's not necessary, but it introduces us to her.
That's right. That's right.
I think that could have been done here where we see Leslie at the real estate office earlier and we see like, okay, this is who Jennifer Lopez is playing. Now, how do we see her and Jason Statham's characters? How do we see her and Parker? Like how is she involved in this as a real estate agent? So,
yes, agreed. Yeah. And in the trailer, it does not show that Parker currently has another love interest. And so
it kind of does, but it's misleading because
because the scenes that they include with Statham and Lopez are ones where she's stripping or they're like when she kisses him and it's like a little steamy and stuff. So it definitely is it's misleading in terms of what their relationship ends up actually being.
Because what they do show of Claire, she's in a shower and it's real quick, so it's really easy to be like, oh, like you might think that's Jennifer Lopez if you didn't.
I thought it was, honestly, because I when I was watching it, I was like, did they take a shower together? And oh, and so I had to rewatch the trailer a second time. Be like, no, that's not her.
All right, so am I doing the summary of the movie? Or...
You can, if you want to go for it.
Okay. Trying to make this short and sweet. Basically, Jason Statham is a career criminal, and he is involving himself in some kind of heist robbery plot. And his father-in-law is Nick Nolte, who seems like someone he knows, who's also a career criminal, and that's why they know each other, and he's also dating his daughter. But he's like, hey, I got a job for you. I know these guys, blah, blah, blah. You'll be in charge. You'll do it your way, but it's a big score. So it's like, great. So we see this heist. It goes off without a hitch. I was pretty impressed with the heist. I was like, oh shit, this is very intricate, and I couldn't find too many holes. I wasn't like, oh, no. But it was very fascinating, and so they complete this heist. Of course, there's kind of a catch. The main guy's like, hey, if you put your money into the next heist, there'll be an even bigger score. And, but his problem is he's banking on him saying yes. And so when he says no, he's like, well, I'm gonna have to kill you because I need this money. So they try to kill Parker, and wouldn't you know it, you can't kill him. So he comes back. He gets found on the side of the road. He comes back. And of course, now his mission is to get what's owed to him and to probably, crack some skulls. So now he's on this mission to make a point on the principle that they didn't give him his fucking money. And so lots of stuff happens, of course, for him to wind up tracking them down and figuring out what they're doing, what their next job is, and how they're pulling that off, which leads him to Palm Beach, where we meet Leslie, who lives at home with her mom. She is a divorcee, and she's working in real estate, and she's not doing too hot. She is late on her car payment and is about to get repossessed. So she is looking for the next big commission of selling a house, something to get her funds back in order. And so she winds up cleverly stealing Parker's pseudonym as he's trying to track down these people and trying to sell him a house. So that's how they meet. She shortly realizes, like, as she's kind of researching, doing background checks, I'm assuming credit checks and stuff on him, and I think something tipped her off where she's just like, he seems weird, like. And so she looks into him a little bit more, and she's like, you know what, you don't have any major lines of credit, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a car note until like recently, like you're only 2 months old, so what you doing, what's up, what's happening? So she wants to know what's going on, and she kind of wants in on whatever he's planning. And so she's like, look, I know the area, I know a lot of stuff around here, this is a very small town and it's a very rich town, so it's very well guarded and well policed, so you might need my help. So that's how she gets involved. He tries to not thwart the other group's heist, but he is basically pretty much waiting for them to strike and do whatever they're planning to do, and then steal what they steal from them, and then he will cut Leslie in. And yeah, that's the gist of the movie. And on that note, let's talk about the cast.
Let's do it. Yeah, we have I'm not mad at this cast. It would be kind of maybe not like typical people that you would see, but maybe kind of typical people that you would see in a movie like this. We've already talked about Jason Statham playing Parker, Jennifer Lopez playing Leslie Rodgers, but we also see actors like Michael Chitlis playing kind of the lead villain in this movie named Melander. We see Nick Nolte, again, 6 Degrees of Jennifer Lopez. Last time we saw him with her was in U-Turn.
Oh, shit.
He was the nasty daddy in U-Turn.
He looks so unrecognizable in this movie. So,
yeah, they made him look like he's old, but they made him look like really, really old. Like just, or maybe not. I don't know.
He just looks like really bloated and like.
Yeah, he looked
overweight. Yeah.
I would agree. And for someone who is a career criminal, lives, I don't know, very modestly, I was like really surprised.
Well, you can't flaunt your scores. You know?
That's true. That's true.
And they'll be like, where'd you get all this money?
We also see a return of Bobby Cannavale, who plays the local police officer of West Palm, Florida, Jake Fernandez. He was in Shall We Dance?
He's an asshole again. So
I don't know. He was less of an asshole in this one. I think
he was less of an asshole in Shall We Dance, because eventually, like, you realize that he's closeted and he has a lot of shit he needs to work on.
Oh, see, well, okay, clearly his character, Jake Fernandez, is like, he's a local. It's clear that Leslie Rodgers is a local. Maybe they knew each other from like high school or college or something, but like he's pining for her clearly, and she just won't give him the time of day. But at some point during the middle of the movie, he does have to pay an actual visit to her house and talk with her, because when a death ensues with Jason Statham and one of the like crime people that was coming after him, who ends up falling from a, I don't know, however
his
high
hotel
20 stories up or something like that, that Leslie's business card was in there. Anyways, doesn't matter. I thought his character, it was small, but I didn't think he was any more of an asshole than in Shall We Dance. Maybe it's just
we'll talk about the scene that I thought that sealed his asshole status for me, because it has a very nice quotable line.
Yes, what Jennifer says.
Yes.
Back, I agree. And then we also have, for the Broadway people out there, Patti LuPone plays Jennifer Lopez's mom in this movie. And she is very, very famous in the Broadway world, but she kind of plays this eccentric, kooky mom who just watches soap operas all day. She tells people that Leslie was named after someone from Days of Our Lives or something like that.
Yeah.
But she has this stupid little chip chihuahua named Pipsy.
Very kind of Golden Girls, like retiree in Florida.
Yes. Oh, totally. Like with the salmon, pink house, and the teal, and all of that.
And the caftans.
The caftans. Bria, am I missing anyone from this cast?
I mean, well, I noticed Wendell Pierce. He's been in a lot of like black movies and just movies randomly, probably. And then I would like to point out Emma Booth, who plays Claire, who is Jason Statham's actual love interest in this movie, because like I clicked on her on IMDb and I'm like, actually, you know what? She's really attractive. I don't know if they like did something makeup wise in this movie, but like
she was very plain.
Yeah, she's very plain. And then I feel like I feel like they didn't set up her character to seem like someone who would be in a long-term relationship with him. And I feel like she, like, okay, point in example. This is point where we talk about this because we'll be talking about J-Lo for the rest of it. But point example, he obviously gets shot, survives, is trying to come back and fuck up these guys' plan and shit. But in the process of coming back, I forget what he does. Oh, to get information, he like finds somebody's brother and then fucks him up, and he's mob affiliated, or mafia affiliated. I think they're the same thing.
Okay, yeah, they said like I got ties in Chicago, so
yeah,
it's probably mafia mob-ish.
Yeah, so of course now he's like, hey, things are about to like get a little dirty, so you might want to leave and go on vacation, and I'll check in on you later. And I feel like, having watched The Sopranos a lot, but like when you're involved with a guy who's about that life, you kind of have plans in place of like, okay, shit's hitting the fan, this is what I need to do, and this is where this is, and then I'm out. And I feel like she seemed all over the place, like Nick Nolte's character is at her house and is talking her through, okay, yeah, pack, I'll be back, blah blah blah, which I thought was weird. I was like, you guys need to get out of there as soon as possible. Why are we having,
for someone who is an alleged like professional criminal, like rule number 1, don't leave anyone behind. You don't say I'll be right back.
Yeah, like they're having a meeting, like they're planning a family trip to Disney World, and they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna bring back the rental van, and then you'll be packed, and then we're gonna swing by. Like, no, we need to go on the run and hide. So I thought like that was a point in the plot that was just like, that's kind of weak. And so of course the mob people send somebody to where they live, and he tries to get her. And first of all, he like pulls up into their driveway, which I mean I think is a bad move, because like, homeboy, like somebody's gonna see you in the car, right? Like you sneak up to the house. But I don't know, but like for me, I don't know, I don't feel like she got upstairs that fast. Like her dad left and then the guy swooped in, and it was like, great. And so how do you not hear someone pull into your driveway? And then on top of that, he's like undoing the doors. I don't know, I feel like she should have been on her toes more.
He picks the lock at like the actual physical lock of the door, and then there's the second like deadbolt lock that he picks, and meanwhile, and the door chain, that's what I meant. And so Claire, meanwhile, is upstairs like packing her suitcase, and it wasn't until he had like opened a door and the door made a squeaky noise that she's like, oh shit, someone's here. Like, I don't know, you would just think that she would have been for a Bob, I keep on saying it wrong, for a mob boss's daughter or like a criminal's daughter, you would think she'd be more prepared and like on edge about someone breaking in. And if she heard someone pulling up in the driveway and getting in, like that she would like call down for her dad, be like, are you back already? And not expecting someone else. Now she does end up getting away. She does end up taking, I think, what is a letter opener and like stabbing, or some kind of a knife and stabbing the tires of the car of the criminal so she can get away. But yeah, her, obviously like the main woman in this movie is going to be Jennifer Lopez, so I'm not surprised that Claire's character is weak. But yeah, it's just, I wrote this down in my notes, and I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up or not, but I felt like it should have just been one or the other.
Yes, I was gonna pose the question. I was like, well, what's the point of her then? If Jennifer Lopez is supposed to be second billed in the second central or the top central woman, like, what's the point of Claire existing besides being able to patch up his wounds because she's done it a million times? Like, and I think again that just is a weakness because I feel like, again, with a character like this, and it seems like they've been in a long-term relationship, there's like a montage of her talking about his scars and stuff like that, and so they've been together for a while. But and I do want to say they do try to make it seem like this is not something that has happened before to them, because when Nick Nolte is there, she's like, we never had to do this, like. And I guess growing up, like, she never had problems arrive on their front door from his involvement in crime. But I'm just like, you still prepare for that shit, especially as an adult when you're in a relationship with someone who's involved in that stuff. Like, as a kid, of course, your parents are going to leave you out of it. So, but at the same time, like, the wife has to know where the money is. The wife has to know, like, where to, like, this is where the money is, here's a gun in case some shit pops off. Like, Carmela Soprano knew where shit was when went left. So
and I don't even know how long they had been dating at that point, because when they're doing the heist in the beginning of the movie, there's this flashback that gives us exposition as to, like, how Parker gets involved in this heist, in this robbery. And it's like at this backyard barbecue of Hurley's house, played by Nick Nolte, and there's this little scene of him and Claire being like, oh, thanks for coming, and da-da-da, and he was just like, how much, like, you mean to me and your dad means to me, and da-da-da-da, and I don't know, it's just, it made it very unclear. They clearly were not married.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they did that to set that up as, like, well, Parker is this, like, rogue anti-hero, but he has a code, right? Like, he's loyal and he steals from the rich and feeds the poor. Like, he kind of said that when he was at this heist in the beginning of the movie, of reassuring the people who they had to zip tie and steal the money from out of the bank, or not the bank, but just, like, the safes and stuff, that, like, he's a criminal, but, like, he means well, you know? And I think that the ultimate purpose of Claire was to show that he's a criminal, but he has a code, at least. Like, he has some redeeming factors about him.
Yeah. And I could see that, but, like, make her someone strong enough to, like, be like, okay, this is who he's stealing for, and this is, like, the life he has, and whatnot, and he's trying to protect and whatnot. Like, don't make it so flimsy. Okay, so at that point, I have no one else to talk about, really, so we can move on.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess now that we've talked about the summary and the cast of the movie, and we've kind of gotten some of the character shit list out of the way. Oh, wait, tell me, let's now go into Jennifer Lopez's character, Leslie Rodgers, and maybe the role that she plays, how it holds up to some of Jennifer Lopez's other roles. And this is where I'd love to hear you talk about Bobby Cannavale's role as an asshole.
Okay, well, I guess talking about Jake Fernandez, who Bobby Cannavale plays, as Simone said, he plays this cop who's pining after Leslie's character. Seems like they know each other pretty well from being in Palm Beach, but she's at a coffee shop and she's getting her usual order, and he's hitting on her on the clock, like, in uniform, and I'm just like, oh, you creepy ass cop, like. And then, like, okay, so there's a sense, like, once that happens, that they know each other, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe. And then I forget what he says,
Oh, I
But
know what he says.
okay, what does he say?
He goes, "Do you have a cup holder in your car? Or are you just holding that between your
Yes,
thighs?"
right. And so she comes back at him and she's like, "Well, it's large and black, Jake. Where do you think I like it?" And I was just like, "Oh!" Like,
Oh, yeah.
yes. So yeah, so that is, I guess, to segue that into Jennifer Lopez's portrayal and character Leslie. That is just like a snippet of how like clever and smart she
Yes.
can be, and
She's got
uh,
some good dialogue in this movie. We're introduced to her character with a like long body shot of her waking up in the morning. There's like a half drunken glass of wine, some like nondescript pills in a bottle, and she's
which is
sleeping.
totally not Jennifer Lopez.
Which is so not Jennifer Lopez. It's funny. I was wondering too, of all the scenes that we see her character drinking a wine, I was like, oh, is that really wine?
Oh,
Or
it
is
never
that
is.
it never is. Okay.
No, but okay, since we're talking about the wine, when she drinks the Chablis and she just like pretty much guzzles it, like part of me was like, I feel like you can tell she's not a drinker because like someone who drinks wine wouldn't
Does
drink it
not
like
drink it
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So funny. Yeah. So
like this
we're
ocean spray.
delicious, delicious. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Actually, I forget that's probably what they use is like watered down ocean spray to like get the right color, I
Yeah.
guess, of the wine. But yeah, Leslie Rodgers is kind of a scrappy character. I call her scrappy in the sense that like she's a bit of an underdog where she's going through a divorce. She lives at home with her mom, also like works really hard and is funny, clever, and witty, and is able to like smooth talk her way to a criminal to be like, you should let me tag along on your shenanigans. But I feel like I'm kind of all over the place right now with her character, but I didn't think that she was the thing that was problematic of this movie. And
You
again,
never do.
I know I have to take a step back and think like, well, is it that or is it Jennifer or is it my like now clearly biased opinion about Jennifer Lopez or what? But what did you think about Leslie Rodgers?
um I liked her more once she gets with Parker, when they show her at the real estate office and one of her coworkers, is like, I haven't got a commission and blah blah blah, and they're, talking about their work situations, and she's not doing so great at work.
Yeah.
But there's this lady that's clearly doing well and knows it. And
Mm-hmm.
so her coworker mentions something and she's like, "Oh, really?" And then she goes over to her desk and kind of does all this stuff to steal a client from her, which winds up being Parker. But like, I wrote that if her character was this clever, she wouldn't be doing this out of desperation for a client. Like, I feel like if she was that smart, she would have already finagled her way into maybe a few more commissions by then. Like, it's just weird that it seemed like it turned on conveniently, like for the movie and the plot. Like,
Oh, okay, I see. If she really was this clever, then she would be in the same position as the coworker who is doing really well and does make a lot of commission.
yeah, or like she would have thought of a way to steal a client before, like I just kind of was like, I don't really buy like all of a sudden, like now she's like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to see like the name of the person she's meeting. Like she could have been done something like that. Like.
Yeah, so instead maybe not making her less smart, but like let's say that she was more of just like the like more like nerdy and straight laced and like tried to play by the books but wasn't ending up like making a lot of commission or being very successful at her job. And but then she turns it on and is like, all right, fine, I'm gonna take a page out of like this girl's book and be a little bit more competitive, and now I'm gonna like steal that client from her.
Yeah. Like I don't know really how to fix that. And I've recently tweeted about criticism and how you can't really criticize something without having a like, this is probably maybe would have been better, like having
Without a solution.
yeah, without a solution. Otherwise you're just straight up just hating on something. I'm not hating on this. I just think it's hard because even if, okay, you make her a successful real estate agent, yeah, she'll still probably meet Parker, but she probably wouldn't want to be in on his crime. Like,
yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you do that, but you like have her be involved, like unbeknownst to her and like unwillingly, and she just gets like involved, and then they kidnap her as a way to get to him, maybe somehow.
Got it. Yeah, she's showing him a house, and then like action ensues, and she just kind of gets like wrapped up into it, and he's like, all right, well, I gotta take you along now because you're a witness, or like she gets kidnapped. Yeah, totally, that would make a lot more sense.
Whereas this goes the route of, because she's in dire financial need, she's like, okay, well, whatever you're doing, I want in on. And then on top of that, when she sees that he might be in trouble because he's so mangled and injured, that she's like, okay, well, shit, maybe I need to like intervene and like see if he's, or like, you know, try to help him, even though she can't. But I mean, yeah, so that part of her character development is just like, I was just like, that could have been better. But besides that, like you said, she had some great lines, some good dialogue. I do think that they made her look like, her makeup and stuff definitely was like dated. Her hair was like very dated looking,
and her outfits too, they're very stereotypical, like dress suit, 90s power real estate woman, and her makeup was really kind of plain and toned down. Her hair too was mostly all the way straight, maybe with like a little bit of a flip. It was very like well polished and stuff.
Which I think is like a Florida. I think they were trying to make her look very Floridian in some ways, but like, I feel like they could have utilized her hotness, like especially if she was successful. Like she could have just been like some.
Oh yeah,
like that could have been why she was so fucking successful. Like the chick that was successful, they definitely like, I feel like alluded to like, she's really pretty and you know, put together. So this is maybe why she's doing so well. Not that that's the only reason women do well, but you know.
No, I get you, because she made a comment. Her character makes a comment at some point about how she was like, you like being in this business. She's like, my job is showing like rich, wealthy men around to like these houses that I'm never going to be able to afford, and having to deal with the gropes and grabs and passes that these men make at me, and then not seeing the commission or the benefit of their gross behavior towards me. It's almost as if she takes this job with Parker as this like ultimate revenge of like, fuck you to all these other people in the real estate agent business that like slight her out of getting her comeuppance, and as a way out to get her. I mean, obviously that's her leverage, right? Like she wants, that's her motivation of her character, to get her out of debt, to get her out of this current position that she's in. But again, if she says that, but we have never like seen that, maybe besides with Jake Fernandez, of like him. All right, well, hey everyone, we're gonna fast forward about 2 months later. We realized that the second half of this audio for this episode got lost in the universe somewhere. And before we release this episode into the atmosphere, which will actually be about like a week or so from now, we gotta finish some housekeeping things, some conversations that were actually pretty good and pretty important to the movie. So based on where we left off from what Bria and I just listened to for this episode, we're generally talking about overall how Jennifer Lopez's character, Leslie Rodgers, kind of compared to Karen Sisco in Out of Sight, and a little bit about her character as a whole.
Well, amongst many technical Oh my god. Okay. I'm sorry. This is going to be a little rough because I feel like it's something we work up to, you know? We start
Yeah.
talking about these movies and we set the tone with reviews and all that kind of stuff. And to just hop right back in is a little
Yeah.
hard. So, Simone, you actually got cut off mid sentence
Mm-hmm.
talking about Jennifer Lopez. Do you think you could pick up where Simone 2 months ago was?
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna do my best. So, I don't know. When I listen back to the whole episode with what we like so far, what we've talked about is kind of comparing this role to some of the other roles and like following through with some of that plot. Now, I know we didn't like go back and rewatch Parker, so we're just kind of going off of what we remember. And so this is going to be off the dome. So please, forgive us for being a little choppy, but I feel like I'm just stalling at this point. So, what I enjoyed about um Leslie Rodgers is that she is a person, she was a very average person in this
Mm-hmm.
movie. She was not of like a Gigli character where she was like secretly a little assassin badass, or that she was in like Karen
Karen
Cisco
Cisco and
from Out
Out
of
of Sight.
Sight, and like she was a trained marshal, US Marshal, right?
Yes.
And like handled the gun really well. And even in some of her other roles, even if they're movies that we haven't liked, she still showed like different badass qualities, like real tough girl qualities.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember, I feel like talking about, well, prior to this, I did get to talk a little bit about her sort of all of a sudden having these ideas of bettering her situation via like a little recon. Like she
Yeah.
stole that client and that's how she meets Parker. And I feel like I remember talking about like I do obviously we when we watch these movies, we really want to get a nice amount of Jennifer Lopez on our
Hmm.
screens so that
Hmm.
we have a lot to talk about. And I know that I talked already about Claire a bit and how like I felt like she was kind of inconsequential in terms of like him being in a relationship when the
Hmm.
trailer kind of alludes that him and Jennifer Lopez are going to be kind of maybe something.
Right. Going back and re-listening to what we already had, I actually did rewatch the trailer just to double check, and I was like, dude, that really it's a strange trailer because it gives away quite a bit, but also alludes to like throw some red herrings in there, like to things to kind of catch you off guard. Like you're not going to expect it, like you think it's going to turn out one way. And I think maybe that's why I was a little disappointed in this movie. Not because I'm always not because I always want something romantic to happen between
Yeah.
two characters, but I thought they had decent enough chemistry and enough sexual tension, especially when Leslie Rodgers follows Parker back to his kind of apartment slash
Mhm.
little place that he's renting in Florida while he tracks down the rest of the men in the group that like wronged him in that original carnival heist. And he very like seductively tells her, well, how do I know you're not wired? And she does this like beautiful, sensual striptease.
Wait, was that at the condo or the real estate office?
I think the condo. Like
Well, it's
she
been two
goes,
months. Sorry,
yeah,
people.
I'm gonna give you a confident yes in that it's at the condo because I don't think she would take her clothes off at her office.
But they went there after hours. And remember, she took the wine from that like wine fridge and
Oh, okay. All right. You're right, but either way, like she does a very sensual striptease because he kind of asks her to. And it's a little bit kind of like not bullying, but like a little bit like pushy, which I think
well,
kind of
yeah.
and but she like willingly was down for it.
Yeah.
And that was and yeah, I felt like there was enough in there that he would be like, I am aroused. Like if it was me, And I like took off my clothes and I have like a torn off bra from that's been like a million years old and like maybe my period panties that day, he'd be like, all right, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. Like, you know?
Someone please write a movie scene that is realistic about the undergarments that women most likely are wearing.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Sorry, that was just so funny.
Are you thinking about that visual?
Well, I was going to say, like, it's very convenient that I did get a chance to talk about that Leslie kind of looks very homely a little bit. She's not, like, they're not utilizing Jennifer Lopez's beauty to the highest level they can in this movie.
Right.
But it's very convenient that Leslie Rodgers looks, pretty average, but average for J-Lo standards.
Right.
And then she strips to get checked for a wire, and she's wearing amazing lingerie. So not to say that average people can't wear lingerie, but I mean, it's very probably rare. But I do know that I have a note that they scrapped a sex scene, I think, between Jennifer and Jason. So
I wonder if originally like their characters were going to get together, but and like that was before the addition of Jason's boo Claire. But but even if Claire was in the picture, see, I would have been kind of upset about a sex scene then, because it's like, well, for what? Like if he never was gonna stay or planning on like, it's not, maybe that they would throw it in for that like James Bond purpose of, because this is a movie that you can maybe kind of compare to a James Bond movie, where you have your Bond girl that's like going to kind of throw themselves at his sexual luster. He sleeps with them and then he's like, all right, well, I gotta go now, so you better be out in the morning kind of thing. Like I would be very upset if that was the case, because we have seen too many times Jennifer Lopez being passed up like trash in these movies. And we're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? That is wrong.
Right? Oh, man. So that's a great point. I think, too, that this would have been a great opportunity, I think, at some point, maybe. I'm sorry if I keep saying this, people, but, obviously we lost the audio, so we're trying to recollect maybe some stuff we said that, got lost. But I do think that we talked about, like, how excited we were to see this opportunity of her maybe being in like this action movie, and how she hadn't really gone down this lane except for Enough, and like maybe Angel Eyes and Out of Sight kind of, but how this really could have, like, it blows my mind kind of to think that Jennifer Lopez hasn't really been the hot girl in an action movie or in an ensemble cast in an action movie or something. And when I saw, like, when you see the poster for this movie, you'd think she's like the Bond girl of this movie. And so to have her be this very average kind of real estate agent, or as you said, this got cut, real estate head honcho ho.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm so sad that got cut out, because your reaction was so good.
But maybe that's why I got cut. I laughed too hard. It said, I hit a button. But, if she was kind of, I mean, she is savvy in this movie for, like, being kind of stumbling into this situation. But what if it was less of a stumble, What if, like, her and Jason's character were like in on this together or something, or had a past, and he needed her help because he was in the Miami area, or I don't even think it was Miami, but in Florida,
or like if she was Claire and like daughter of Nick Nolte, whose character was Hurley in the movie, where like she gets captured as leverage for Parker to come get her and like finish off their beef together. And I mean, which unfortunately puts her kind of in this like damsel in distress role. But what they don't know is that because she's Hurley's daughter, that she has like all of this like combat training and she's like actually hella tough and can hold her own.
Yeah.
And so then like she breaks free and her and Parker like meet up and work together to like finally take down that crew.
Yeah, or if maybe Claire, because when we talk about Claire, we talk about how she's kind of ill prepared for like shit's about to go down.
Yeah.
And I really think that maybe if Jennifer was Claire and we don't get Leslie, but well, maybe we get Leslie, but you know, she's really like, you know, just a real estate person and they just need her to do what, you know, they need to do. But if Claire goes with Jason's character instead of going into hiding and running, but you know, shit's about to hit the fan and we're in this together sort of thing. And obviously she winds up coming down later to fix his wounds. Why not bring her with you? You know?
Yeah.
Just make it a couples trip in some sorts. But like, you know, that maybe they've done some stuff together too. Maybe she's not this innocent like girlfriend, but maybe she's like a Dom in Fast and the Furious with Vin Diesel. Like she's in on the action. Like she's gone through the ringer too. And I think that would have been kind of interesting instead. But yeah, I just think it's kind of a missed opportunity in that regard in terms of like seeing Jennifer Lopez in this badass action role. And I mean, I enjoyed what we got to see, but you know, it would have been cool if she was kicking ass too. Like,
agreed. And she kind of kicked ass at the end. So, and I think she didn't kick ass like physically, but I think could kick ass pretty well like wit wise. Like she was very clever.
Yes.
And I appreciated that. So by the end of the movie, when Leslie is kidnapped, or she's like at the house where the mob crew
she was snooping around, right? And they like
oh yeah, you're right, she was snooping around. They found her, took her in, and like figured that she knew Parker and was using her to get to him. Then he comes and stuff, and there's some really good action. I mean, again, a lot of the like fighting and blood and stuff is from Jason Statham's point of view, but Leslie does, you know, get some hits in there, and I think outwits one of them to like shoot their gun in a different direction, or like ends up like using the gun back on them or something like that. I'm so sorry that this is not fresh, but listen, we also both didn't really like love the movie either to have to go back and re-record.
I didn't love it, but I liked it. I wasn't mad at the possibility of rewatching it, but like life happens and you know, weeks get busy. Trying to manage social media stuff is hard, and then we still have 2 movies left, so I haven't even watched our next movie. So not that and the movies I have been trying to watch, I've been falling asleep watching. So Tiger King Part 2, sorry, like it's not really a movie though, but
wait, what?
There's a Part 2 to Tiger King.
You're shitting my dick. Seriously?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We got to wrap this up, man. I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, on that
note. Okay, but seriously though, so one thing I did want to talk about was I think what kind of irked me about this movie is that there was just, it was muddled. The story overall was a little too muddled and not as straightforward. And it in my ending thoughts, I said like Jennifer Lopez does a good job exercising her talent, is being very funny and sexy, because we've seen her in many different roles now. We've seen her in things from Made in Manhattan to Border Town to Out of Sight to U-Turn to My Family, Selena. Like, there's so many different roles in this season that we've covered, and each they're not identical, and I appreciate that. And her role as Leslie kind of felt like this mix of funny rom-com, quirky, witty girl who's kind of down on her luck, matched with more of her like kind of badass street smart characters. And while I appreciate that the character had like a marriage of different personalities in there, I'm just not sure which would have been worse and like what I would have ended up preferring towards the end if Claire didn't exist and Parker and Leslie would end up hitting it off in some way, like a la Out of Sight. Or what ended up happening, which is Leslie, as funny and scrappy as she is, ends up coming across as like a little desperate and fangirly towards the end. And we've talked about Jennifer and her relationships and how she can like chase after, well, who, I don't know who chases, but she tends to date very quickly back to back, and talked about that in her book a little bit about being not desperate for love, but feeling self-conscious about herself. And that's almost what this character felt like, because at some point at the end of the story, once the bad guys are gone, story wraps up, they don't have the money yet, but Parker promised that he would. He like, they're in a car and he's like dropping her off at home, and she's like, I never stood a chance, did I? Like, she goes in to try and like kiss him one more time, and he pulls away, and she's like, I never did stand a chance, did I? And
how dare he?
I know, that's why I was like, come on, girl. Like, there are other Stathams in the sea, but that's
not even that. But again, this is like Mitch in the shower scene all over again.
Yeah.
How do you turn away?
But then if at the end of the day, apples to apples, this movie stars Jason Statham. He's the protagonist of the movie, and characters or the audience is supposed to root for the protagonist. And so if he didn't have this like sweet code of honor and ends up leaving Claire, like, people would have been like, oh, you fucking dick. Like,
no,
you don't think?
No, I'm sure the audience that this movie was probably intended for, which is probably mostly men, would have preferred to see Jason Statham fuck Jennifer Lopez on screen then I don't even know. Sorry to that actress, but sorry. I don't even know who she is off the top of my head. But her character, Claire, would have rather seen that. I know I would have rather seen that. So, I mean, Jason doesn't even have to be in there. Cut to Claire. And not Claire. Cut to Leslie. Like, let's be honest here.
So then if that's the case,
like a horny segment for Jason.
But if that's the case, then I don't even want Claire in the picture. Like, I'm fine with having Jason Statham like fuck Jennifer Lopez. I'm fine with having that plot line in there. But then I would just say, like, completely take out the, like, maybe he had Claire and Claire died, and he was like hung up on her.
Claire off. First of all, too, I think they should have cleared Claire. I think they should have killed Claire off, because it also would have been an even more solid reason to go after these dudes than just like, oh, they stiffed me for my cut of this job, you know, and tried to kill me. I mean, he has enough justification, but to go Liam Neeson Taken level of like revenge, that would have sent it like, oh yeah, let's fuck these dudes up, Parker. So I think and then that would have opened up so much more with him and Leslie. Like, and I kind of talked about this a little bit, but where you have the real estate agent who is successful and doing well, and you can tell that She's really well put together and attractive and stuff. JLo's hotter. She could have easily been like the hot real estate agent, and maybe Parker's, obviously he's grieving over Claire and he needs a little like
yankety yank, spankety spank.
and and he needs also Leslie's help in that realm still.
That too, I guess.
But yeah, it would have just added like to the already. I don't know why they put sexual tension in there if they weren't going to use it,
right,
but it would have added to it and the job. And then when she gets kidnapped, more so than this like code of honor or doing the right thing, maybe he's got little feelings for her. Also, him just not emailing, him just mailing her the money. Like, I kind of wanted them to see each other again.
Yeah.
Like, and
if they met up, I don't know, on a beach.
I do have that in my notes. I was like, I said, I swear this would have been the perfect on the beach ending of a movie again. But, I guess that's obvious thief behavior at this point. I can't expect that ever in a movie.
Oh, like cops know the first place that thieves are going to go is the beach. Book 'em, boys.
Or an island.
Yeah.
Oh, they booked a ticket to Jamaica. Book them. They took the money. But yeah, I would have liked them to see each other again, and then or like maybe go off again into the sunset together and like see if like their little thing they had is gonna be a thing. I don't know how. I know this is based on a series of books. I don't know how the books go, but it could have been enough, especially if she was a part of the action like we kind of wanted, for them to like team up and do more shit together versus like this kind of, all right, like job's done, peace out, thanks, like kind of.
Yeah. I bet you this was probably just meant to be a one-off, unless they were hoping that like Statham's star power would have taken it. I think if this movie got a sequel, I don't think Jennifer Lopez would have been in it.
No, probably not. She obviously is not a sequel girl. She has yet to do anything in the realm of sequels or trilogies or series.
With the exception of Ice Age, but yes.
Oh, yes.
You're right.
Jennifer Lopez sequels, not in the Parker sequel.
Not in the Parker sequel.
No, and I think that, like you said, it could be very Bond-esque, where there's this revolving door of new chicks for every movie.
And I think I talked about it in this one, and you corrected me or let me know that we actually, to kind of circle back, if I may, to the part of the conversation we were talking about Leslie Rodgers and like being like in it with Parker, like being some kind of a agent, spy, heist person, whatever he is. I don't know what his like official job title is, but professional bank robber ? And I was like, oh, you know what? Because the reviewer of this movie had like kind of shit on her and said like, oh, she's like taking these roles while she still can. And I was like, who's to say we can't have like a Jennifer Lopez role where as she is now, but she's like, mommy's got to go to work, and she's like actually a secret agent. And then you told me, you're like, there is literally a movie coming out called Mother or The Mother or something like that. It's not the cute movie with Owen Wilson called Marriage Story.
Marry Me.
Marriage Story. That's the movie with like Scarlett Johansson.
Yes. That is the movie that Laura Dern won the Oscar for, that everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of JLo fans believe JLo was snubbed and deserved to be nominated, let alone win that category. So.
Yes, which we will discuss.
2 degrees of separation of Marriage Story.
Indeed. Yes. So this one's called Marry Me, right?
With Owen Wilson.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, and then there's another one that called The Mother. The Mother, yes. Where she gets to play like kind of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith role, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. I don't know if she has like a male co-star in that way, but we when we recorded this episode originally, we just knew of it, but now we've seen pictures of her filming and she looks badass. And out of all 3 of her movies that are coming out soon in the next year, I'm really excited to see what comes of this one because, again, we would love to see her in a very action-y type movie. Like, I think it was a missed opportunity to do that. Not to say that obviously she's doing it in her 50s, but like it was a missed opportunity to not pursue like those kinds of roles in movies in her youth. But again, maybe that's not necessarily on Jennifer Lopez, but like opportunity scheduling, she's a busy woman, so.
Very busy, as we've discussed in our future mini episodes that talk about American Idol and her book and her other albums and Vegas tours. Y'all got lots of little fun tidbits coming up after this episode.
Yes. We might have 2 movies left to cover, but there's a lot of like personal shit that
we have 2 movies, but most likely like 8 more episodes left.
Wow.
And I started planning this last weekend, and we were like typing up notes, and we're like, this is probably at least like about like 3 episodes worth of stuff. So.
And I didn't even count, like, I'm pretty sure we could probably do a whole episode on A-Rod and their relationship.
But yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Hustlers is going to be 2 parts, and then there's going to be some fun stuff.
Well, it sounds like as much as we would love to give the people what we gave them originally, it sounds like we're wrapping up here. So.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah, we tried. Thanks for, kind of sticking with us. I did write down a cocktail for this movie, which we haven't discussed.
I meant.
Yeah. We're moving on.
Okay.
We're moving on.
Yeah.
For me, my cocktail for this movie was a Chablis wine because her character gulps that shit like it's water. And she's thirsty in the hot Florida sun. Originally, I think you had joked that my cocktail should be a mojito because in the beginning of the movie, I had said I had to watch this movie 1.5 times because I drank a very strong mojito like the first time around and fell asleep. But I still stick by Chablis wine. I don't really think maybe carnival food or fair food just based off of the like intro heist. To the movie, so maybe a good old like funnel cake.
I feel like I remember that. I'm gonna go again. I'm never prepared for this. I'm gonna go with. I'm raw dogging a bottle of tequila, like straight from the bottle. Like after all the shit that they go through, sometimes you have those scenes a la Mr. and Mrs. Smith where they're all like, rugged, got some dirt and grime on them. Their shirts half off and unbuttoned. Yes, I am picturing that at the end of this movie. Just, we got our money, we did the job, got a few scratches. Parker has a whole ass hole in his hand from a knife. And yeah, I'm just drinking straight up tequila out of the bottle. Sitting on the beach watching the sun come up.
There you go.
Like another day in paradise. And then maybe I'll shuffle on over somewhere and get like a nice, I always say this when we do like Florida movies, but I want a Cuban sandwich. Like
I think you said that. I think you did. So
I think I did for Blood and Wine. I can't remember if there's another movie where they're in Miami. But yeah, I want to keep it. They're so good.
Okay.
So wrong.
Cuban sandwiches are like ham, Havarti cheese, and like a good mustard, right?
And I think like they come with pickles too.
And it's hot,
and,
right?
Yeah,
and
it's like toasted, and it's good. It's like a good pastrami sandwich too.
I believe you.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode. What was that?
Nothing. I could just, you're a perfectionist, and I can tell this like slight hint of defeat in your voice when you're just like, well.
Yes, because even I was like talking at work about it because I was like, well, initially I was like, well, we should just redo the whole episode. But then I was like, even then it's going to be like half of what it was, because we're not going to be as enthusiastic and natural about it. And I've never thought about this, like that we might have to like redo something from a technical issue standpoint. But I was like, well, that would have been worse, because then we do have perfectly fine footage that is spontaneous, natural, all that stuff. But it just got cut short. So why redo all of that just to make it not seem so awkward that we like lost the end of it? But then it's just like it's a shit sandwich any way you slice it. Diagonal,
you're so right.
Down the middle, open faced.
You're so right. And that's why we're the great value version, because we really do try our best. Like, we could have easily just said, fuck it, scrap it. Like, Parker was fine. And just like maybe just release us like the video clips that we have of us on our social and just say, oops, sorry, like the audio's like completely gone or whatever. Or we could have rewatched it and tried again. But you're right, like it won't have it either way. It won't be as authentic as the first time. And I think what we did was at least try to give some kind of closure and closing thoughts, so that it doesn't just end in the middle of us talking about the plot and then being like, all right, well, that's all it was. Sorry.
Yeah. So, yes, it pains me a little bit, but, really, if you finish this episode from beginning to awkward cut off to us coming back 2 months later, thank you for listening. And, please come back, like Simone said, for the great value version. That means store brand. We're not fancy here. Of Inside the Actor's Studio.
Yes, and if you like us enough, mistakes and all, flaws and all, to stick around, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole, where we do have a hella fun episode next week, because we discuss Jennifer Lopez in The Boy Next Door, and this will be our first episode with special guests accompanying Bria and I. And that is Jackie and Danielle from No More Late Fees. So go ahead and check them out if you haven't listened to them. They are hilarious.
I had so much fun recording that episode with them. And if you like that so much, we have an episode with them on their podcast for their Love and Basketball episode. So go check that out if you haven't. But if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen, and maybe, rewatch a few that you have.
Yeah, there you go. I'm your host, Simone. Please subscribe to This Blessed Mess and rate and review. As we're wrapping up this first season, it would really mean a lot to us to start to get this podcast off the ground as we figure out and navigate what our next season will look like. So if you're up for it, please leave us a like. But if not, it would also be awesome if you can subscribe and leave a review.
As well as liking, subscribing. Please share. If you follow us at Roll Call Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and my favorite, Twitter, then you will get love back for showing us love. So, on that note, I'm your host, Bria. I am so saddened if this episode is not up to snuff for you, but we did our best.
We did our best.
That's all you can do.
Hell yeah. And this has been another episode of...
my bad.
I'll take it. I'll go for it.
Keep it.
I.
You want roll call. All right.
Bye.
Oh. Yes, because, I'm back in the office, Simone's back teaching, and we did not plan to go back to our normal jobs.